Murphy's Law along the way. I heard that the trains are always late. I told the bus driver. Only when you're on time, he said. I scooted off the bus and raced toward the train station in Piccadilly. My rushing was in vain. The 8:30 a.m. train had left, and I'd have to wait about an hour for the next train. I wished I had gotten the train because after 8:30 the schedules were changed due to repairs on the tracks. There would be no special bus to take visitors all the way to Stratford at the stop. I would have to walk 6 blocks to another train station for a train. The other train came, and I was happy to get on board. Then, a sullen-looking couple came on and chose to force me out of my seat without saying a word. I realized that it was because I had a table with 4 seats. They thought I would get up without having to ask me. The mother and children were already seated across from me. The father stood over me like a sentry. "Would you like to sit here?" I asked. "Thank you, you're very kind," he said, realizing that I was a tourist. I arrived at the Stratford station a few hours later and asked the clerk what time was the last train from the station because I didn't want to be stranded there. He said I have to step aside because there was a train coming and a group of people wanted to buy tickets. It wasn't fair because I was there first. It was about 20 minutes before I got my info. I finally arrived at Shakespeare's Birthplace and stopped at the museum. There was a replica of the room where he did his writing, and some of his writing was on display, including a letter to a friend asking for a loan. He left most of his belongings to his daughters, an early 16th century silver-gilt bowl, jewels, etc. His wife got the secondary bed. This has been interpreted that he had very little regard for her. Later, I strolled into the garden mentioned in some of his plays and relaxed under a tree in the tranquil atmosphere. Later, I went to the cottage where he was born. The room where he was born was decorated to reflect the time in which he was born. Candles burning, a 4-poster bed, etc. Much ado about nothing. No cameras were allowed, so I was jotting down some interesting stuff when a nervous guide told me I couldn't take notes and mentioned something about I was from the BBC. I told her that I was just a tourist. Later, when the other guests left, we had a pleasant talk. Holy Trinity Church, where Shakespeare was baptized, married, and buried, was my next tour. It was a beautiful day, and along the river Avon people were sitting on the grass having picnics or just relaxing. The church dates back to the 13th century. I took a tour, and when I signed the visitor's book, the guide told me that I brought the beautiful weather with me. On my way back to Piccadilly, I had no problem. A beautiful sunset followed me for miles. All is well that ends well.